They say that Machu Picchu is one of the most beautiful places in the world, and they are not lying. Surrounded by lush green vegetation, this ancient city was built by hand. Stone laid upon stone and carved within the Andes Mountains centuries ago. It is nothing but spectacular. But holy hell, the heat. The horrible, beautiful heat. It was so oppressive that I am ashamed to admit that I had wished to be transported back home, to an Edmonton winter, and let the blistery cold wind soak down into my bones, and make me forget that I had ever been that hot. And the stairs. Oh my god, the stairs. I didn't know that many stairs even existed in one place, and going up them was brutal to say the least. Especially after the bus ride filled with stinking tourists all smushed together like a boiled can of sardines. I wasn't sure that I was going to make it. At one point during the hike, delirious and exhausted, I envisioned myself lying face down on the trail, just steps away from the top, dead from heat stroke, when my cousin Melissa apologized to people as they sidestepped around my stinking corpse. "I'm so sorry. I told him to drink more water and put a hat on, but you know men," she would say. Refusing to give her the satisfaction of watching me die, I dug deep into the reservoir of stamina I didn't know that I possessed, and I completed the endless staircase of hell. After what felt like hours, we finally reached the city, and it was magnificent. We stayed as long as we could, drinking in the beauty and mystery that is the Machu Picchu, visiting the Temple of the Sun, and the Room of the Three Windows. The day passed quickly, and soon it was time to leave this beautiful place and descend the stairs back towards the dreaded sardine bus. Although it was much easier going down than up, my body was still exhausted from the morning's plight. I stopped beneath an overhanging tree looking for relief from the unrelenting heat, but I found none. I turned to Melissa, who was also panting and drenched in sweat, and I pointed to a small gap in the tree line in front of us. "I'm pretty sure there's a little path right there. Maybe the locals use it to walk around the forest. I'm going to see if I can find a tree to lie down for half an hour. I'm dying out here." "They said not to leave the trail, Michael." She always used my full name. "You could stumble around and damage some of the ancient relics." "Honestly, Melissa, I am done. All I want to do is fall asleep under a tree for like half an hour. Come with me or stay here. I really don't care." And with that, I left the trail, following the small path into the woods, refusing to look back out of spite. That'll teach her, I thought. The relief from the heat was immediate, and I ended up walking further in than I expected, moving deeper into the forest, away from the trail. I heard the rustle of leaves behind me as Melissa broke through the vegetation, quickly catching up to me. "I thought you were just finding a nap tree. Where are you going?" "I'm not sure. It was just so beautiful that I wanted to keep exploring. You know, get to see the real Machu Picchu, the one that the tourists don't get to see." We soon spotted something just up the path. As we approached, we realized that it was a rectangular pool, cut into the floor of the forest itself and surrounded by terracotta tile. The dark jade water looked cool and inviting, free of debris and bugs like the water had just been skimmed by a helpful lifeguard. I ripped off my shirt and I emptied my short pockets, making sure to throw my cell phone and wallet out of the splash zone, and I cannonballed into the cool water below. "My God, yes," I said as I swam in circles, letting the cool water envelop me in a refreshing hug. "Michael, get out of there." "Relax," I said, and I pointed to the platters of half-eaten fruit that lined the shallow end of the pool. The other end opened up to a gradual incline towards the shore, a perfectly designed walkout swimming pool. And this is obviously where all the locals and guides take their breaks and have a snack. It is the perfect place. No one is around and no tourist to ask 1,000 questions. I rolled my eyes and I dived deep into the water, taking a mouthful of the jade liquid and spitting it at her like we did when we were kids in my parents' pool. She rolled her eyes and she jumped away. Sufficiently cooled off, I exited the water along the beach and I put my discarded clothes back on. I followed Melissa back through the forest, her heavy footsteps stomping loudly, her passive-aggressive way of letting me know that she was not impressed. We made good time and within 10 minutes, we were back on the sun-scorched trail and those god-awful stairs. I don't know precisely when the first wave of pain hit. In truth, I had felt cramping in my stomach before we had arrived at the main trail, but I thought that it was a bit of heat stroke. I hadn't drunk enough water and I had forgotten my hat on the bus. Heat stroke seemed like a plausible explanation. I was determined to press forward. But when that first real gut-crunching pain hit and left me gasping for air, gripping my stomach, there was no denying it. Something was wrong, and this was not heat stroke. I could feel it under my hand. A small tennis ball-sized thing squirming around, stretching my insides as it continued to grow. A strange lump protruded from my belly for a moment and then sank back in, like a baby kicking a mother's stomach. Only this was not a baby. I prodded my abdomen, trying to make sense of what was happening, and I felt it push against me, hard and foreign. I screamed at the sensation and I fell to my knees as another wave of pain took over. I heard Melissa yell for help, and 2 tour guides ran towards us. "Something is inside of me," I cried, clutching my stomach and the thing living within it. It was now as large as a softball and it was growing fast. Without hesitation, they picked me up, draping my arms over their shoulders and carried me off the trail into the forest. "We will take good care of you, Pachimama," they whispered, but I don't think that they were talking to me. A local man met us on the path a few hundred meters in, and after a short exchange of words, he quickly intercepted Melissa behind us before she could go any further. I don't know what he said to her, but before I lost sight of her, she had turned back towards the main trail. She was always one to follow the rules. A cold sweat covered my body, and I could feel the creatures growing inside of me, my eternal organs shifting and rearranging themselves, making room for this new entity. The skin around my stomach burned as red angry stretch marks split into my sides across my abdomen. Another wave of searing pain ripped through me, and I screamed. The world faded into darkness as I weaved in and out of consciousness. I awoke in a large hut, confused and half delirious from pain. I was naked and tied to a hardwood and reclined chair, my legs splayed open and bound to posts, making it impossible to move. It reminded me of a gynecological chair that I had seen in the doctor's office once when I was a child with my mother. I had asked her if it was for torture and she just laughed. "It's for checking on ladies' private bits," was all she said, and quickly shushed me out of the room into the waiting room. At my feet stood 5 women, dressed in traditional clothing, with large vibrant flowers pleated in their hair. 2 of the women held large platters of fresh fruit and flowers. The woman approached me slowly, talking quietly to me in a language that I could not understand, and began coating my body in a floral-scented oil. They smiled in awe as they touched my protruding belly, watching as it moved towards their touch. An older woman approached from behind the chair, her dark skin a contrast to her light gray hair. She offered me a sweet-smelling drink and told me that it would help with the transition and to dull the pain. I drank the cold liquid deeply, feeling it slide down my throat towards the creature where it seemed to roll around soaking up all the offering. And I thought perhaps this drink was not for me after all. But soon the world around me began to melt into color and sound. A new dimension of sight opened up and I found myself viewing everything from a distance. It was like no drug that I had ever taken before. I watched as the old woman cradled my belly, massaging the creature within as the woman began to softly sing. It was a beautiful song that sounded both ancient and familiar, and I found myself humming along, lulled into submission by the sound and the drink. It was like no drug that I'd ever taken before, part hallucinogenic, part pain reliever. I felt the coldness of the blade against my skin only moments before my brain registered the pain. The old woman stood above me, gripping an ancient blade, as blood oozed out of the large slash she made across my stomach. The song quickly changed as the woman began chanting and dancing. I screamed in both pain and terror as I watched the creature's large dome-like head emerge, its jaw clicking loudly, while two antennae and beady eyes searched the new environment for something familiar. The room erupted in cheers and the women surged towards it, coaxing the giant grub towards them with pleading arms and trays of fresh fruit. I screamed and I struggled against my bindings, unable to contain my horror as its white translucent body, wet and covered in my bile and blood, crawled from within the cavity of my stomach. It slowly inched its way towards them, its 6 spiny legs digging into me as it clawed down my oiled skin, leaving bloody scratches like footsteps on a beach. As it climbed upon a platter, its small black, beady eyes stared back up at me, and for a moment, time stood still. The old woman smiled and bent towards me, her eyes filled with unshed tears. Pachamama chose a strong one this time. You did well, she said, and then the sweet darkness finally took me. I woke up days later to the stark bright fluorescent lighting of a hospital room. I found Melissa asleep beside me, curled up in a little ball in a chair that looked as uncomfortable as the wooden birthing chair that I was just tied to. I found out later that she hadn't left my side the entire week that I was in a coma. The doctor that was assigned to my case told me that I was very lucky to be alive. The tour guides had gotten me to the hospital just in time before the infection could spread. They said that I had caught some form of intestinal parasite, probably from something that I had eaten a few days before at the outdoor market, which caused a mass infection in my bowels. After emergency surgery and a cocktail of strong antibiotics, I was expected to make a full recovery in time. The hospital staff refused to listen to my story of what really happened that day in the hut. They convinced Melissa and my parents that had flown in that I had hallucinated it during the coma. It didn't matter though. They had no explanation to the rope burns and bruises on my wrists and ankles where I was bound to the birthing chair. I know that they are lying. The face on that thing is burned into my memory, as real as the scar on my belly. I know that they are keeping it a secret, from prying eyes and unbelievers that would mock and try to disprove their ancient god. Keeping it safe from those that would do it harm, and rip it apart in the name of science. Please, whatever you do, stay on the trail at Machu Picchu.